Hey, this is Matt from NMR. Today we're going to be talking to Matt Enlow, the creator of the award-winning web series Squaresville. Squaresville just won 3 IAW TV awards, 2 of them being Best Comedy Writing and Best Comedy Series. We're going to be talking to Matt about what it's like being an award-winning comedy writer, working with Big Frame, and what the initial pitch for Squaresville was like. Hey Matt, how's it going today?
Great, fantastic.
So Matt, for anyone who doesn't know, can you tell us what Squaresville is all about as a web series and show?
Yeah, sure. So it's it's the story of 2 best friends growing up kind of bored in the suburbs, and we decided to create it basically because we didn't feel like there was enough quality programming that spoke to a specific group of young people. You know, like so much of like teenage programming is about like glamorous kids in New York at a prep school or something like that, and that really wouldn't have spoken to me when I was that age, and so I thought I'd make a show for those people now.
Right, awesome. So you just recently won 3 IAW TV awards, including Best Comedy and Best Writing for a Comedy. You know, what do those awards kind of mean to you as a creator and a writer?
Well, I mean, it's tremendous because the IAW TV is it's a peer group. You know, it's special. Like, it's one thing, like, you know, there's views and there's all sorts of metrics online that are kind of like can validate whether or not you're doing what you're doing right. But it's different to have the validation of your peers and the respect of your peers. And so I've known a lot of the members for a really long time, and it was something that was just very special to know that they were into the show and appreciated what we were doing and could tell that we were trying to do something new and different.
Right, absolutely. You know, there's really no Academy Awards for web series yet, for web TV. You know, the Academy Awards has been around for so many years, it's been able to establish itself as the name in film awards. Whether those are, you know, a real award ceremony or not, the Academy Awards is, yet to be decided, but they are the name in award shows, same with the Golden Globes. There's no web series award shows right now that have been around long enough to establish themselves as that name. Right now there's, 3 or 4 that are kind of jockeying for that position, but all the longest some of them have been around maybe 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. Would an IAW TV award open the same kind of doors for you as a writer and creator that maybe winning an Academy Award would, or a Golden Globe, anything like that?
Right. Well, I mean, obviously you're exactly right. Like, there's not the same sort of cachet. You know, you don't have to explain what a Golden Globe is to someone. So, are they on the same level? Maybe, probably not. However, that the IAW TV Awards is associated with CES really brings it a lot of cachet. And just kind of, that it's a legitimate organization, and they had, a press presence, and they're organized, and you can look at the voting body and see who's on that list. I think that all is in an effort to legitimize and standardize the IWTV Awards as something that's has real clout. And so certainly it's been meaningful for my career, definitely. I had to explain what it was to my parents, and I wouldn't have to if that was an Oscar, but my agent is still out there using that, and like, we're talking about it now to the press, right? So like, that has to mean something,
as a writer, are you able to, of course, you're going to be pitching things, whether that to be studios or web studios, whatever. As a writer, are you able to take that IAW TV and say, look, I've won this award? Are executives who are very, very frugal and very discerning, are they going to be able to recognize that and be like, this is a really cool thing, this is someone we could trust?
Right. Well, I think that we're at a very interesting time in the web, and I've been in this space long enough to kind of see its ebbs and flows. And I think right now, really the crucial thing is that there's an influx of money and interest. And it just feels really electric all of a sudden. So kind of the way it did, 3 or 4 years ago, kind of really before the economy tanked. So it's very convenient to have the IAW TV wins while Google money is flowing in, and brand money is flowing in. Definitely it's helpful, but I think that really it's all about having a show that's proven and that people find interesting and compelling, and that kind of stands out in one way or another. That's what's important, and whether that's an IAW TV award that's doing that, or really exceptional writing, or an innovative take, there are a lot of different ways to crack the studio nut, and so certainly I'm grateful that we have the IWTV Awards. But I think that there are other shows out there that could have a similar sort of opportunity with or without that award.
Right, absolutely. So right now, a lot of comedy on the web is single jokes, single cameras, stuff like Ray William Johnson or Smosh or Shay Carl. Do you believe that there's room on YouTube and the internet for long-form narrative scripted comedy?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's interesting because right now we're lumping all video that is on the internet into one category, right? So, you know, Conan isn't up for like an Oscar for best monologue, right? Jimmy Kimmel isn't like trying to vie for like best pre-roll package, right? It doesn't make sense. So, you know, because we're in our infancy as a group, as a medium, we're kind of all lumped together. But like, what Squaresville is trying to do and what, say, Ray William Johnson is trying to do is totally different. And that doesn't make it better or worse than the other. It's just like I'm trying to do a cinematic, character-based thing, and Ray is trying to go for hard jokes, right? That's super hard. I totally respect that. And I think it's more just about kind of letting the medium elevate itself a little bit more, and then we'll kind of see, you know, separate categories for what those people are trying to do. So absolutely, I believe that like web comedy has, you know, a ton of potential and a ton of room to grow. But I wouldn't ever want to discount what people are doing, like first person to a camera, or, you know, like those jokes are hard to write. I don't think I could write hard, funny jokes the same way, you know, a Ray or a Shane.
Right, and you know, especially week after week they're doing this stuff. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the same kind of vein, comedy has been the standard for web series. If you look at all Machinima original programming, Big Frame Maker, all of these big networks, original programming, they're all basically comedy based. The only real hard dramas I can think of are, Halo Forward Unto Dawn, and that was a whole Microsoft, backed thing. So that's a little bit of a different story. Do you think there's room for drama series on the web?
Sure. Well, I think that, if you look at like a show like Anyone But Me is a great example and was a big inspiration for us. I think that basically right now, the people who are consuming web content natively are on the younger side. They're like teens in college, somewhere around there, which is kind of like why Squaresville, I think, has been lucky in finding a success. But as that group ages up a little bit, they don't care if you're watching video on the internet or on NBC, and they're going to want comedy and they're going to want drama just like any regular person would. So I think we're just kind of on the dawn of that era, and certainly it's just going to get bigger and better from here.
Right, of course. And you kind of had mentioned that there's a ton of money, there's a ton of Google money going into web series, and so a lot of writers who want to write and want to create their own things are kind of going to web. As someone who's had their show greenlit and someone who's pitched a show, how does that Squaresville process work for you? How did you get this show picked up? How did you get it pitched and funded?
Sure. So we were really fortunate. I mean, basically what we had done, I'd kind of come from an old school background of like, let's find the money ourselves, let's do it the independent film route way. And I just kind of, out of good fortune, did a panel with Sarah Penna, the co-founder of Big Frame. And as I was shopping around Squaresville, we had Kickstarted it originally, I was looking for a home, and I was like, oh, Big Frame, that's perfect. Like, they have the right demo, they're moving and shaking, like, they're the perfect home for Squaresville. So when we sat down together, we all really clicked. I love everybody at that company. They've been tremendously supportive. So it was kind of just an obvious next step to do the season 2. Like, we could tell that the show was still really growing, that it had a really active fan base. It was the recipe was there already, and it was just like, we need to take it to the next step, basically.
Right.
So the pitch was, as far as Hollywood pitches go, it was painless. It couldn't have been more obvious to everyone that we should be working together more. So I'm very lucky in that respect.
And for most creators of web series, I mean, do they have to take this indie Kickstarter kind of mentality where they have to fund it themselves and then pitch it, or do you think networks are starting to get to the level where they're willing to, fund projects and willing to kind of take projects on their own?
Well, it's interesting because, web development and digital studios are still new. So I think that you have to have, with any pitch, whether you're self-funding or otherwise, you have to really be able to explain why the audience that you're aiming for would like the show and why they would be especially interested. And so the reason that I kickstarted Squaresville is because, like, you know, the pitch is not a high concept pitch. It's not like teen vampires fall in love. It's like, oh, some funny kids talking in their bedroom and daydreaming, right? So I knew that it was execution dependent. So if you've got a show that you really believe in and you know will work and you think it's special and you know why it'll work, and you put as much craft as you can into it, then, and you know that it's maybe gonna need some time to find its audience, I would say go ahead and kickstart. Like, it's an amazing time, it's an amazing opportunity. You know, indie fundraising used to mean like selling foreign rights, you know, in Europe so that you could bankroll your American sales or whatever. You know, like all of that old stuff is so far behind us, and it's a cool opportunity. But if you've got, you know, the rights to Halo or Mortal Kombat or something like that, maybe you should go ahead and just pitch that straight to Machinima, and, you know, I'm sure things will work out, you know. So it's kind of like those are the two vast ends of the spectrum, and obviously most people fall somewhere in the middle.
So my last question is, can you just tell us what's next for season 2 of Squaresville?
Yeah. So I mean, it drops February 1st. It's bigger, it's better, it's more exciting. Episodes are a little bit longer. We're playing with format a little bit more. You know, I think we see further development from all of our favorite characters. You know, Esther gets a love interest. Zelda and Wayne kind of develop a little bit more. Percy gets a love interest. We learn more about Coach and about Sarah and Shelley and Ozzy, all those characters that we kind of have seen floating around in the background. We see a little bit more of, and then we kind of get this new wave of other characters that kind of round out the rest of the Squaresville world.
Well, very cool. Well, thanks so much for talking to me, Brian. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you so much.